So I went ahead and downloaded Deploy RazorPage's movie, and I have opened it in Visual Studio 2022. And this has the correct version of .NET and Entity Framework. But before you deploy anything, it is a good idea to check. So if you right-click on the project and go into Properties, you can see the framework. And .NET 6 is good for what we're going to do today. And then if you right click and go into Manage NuGet Packages, you can make sure that your entity framework has the same version. And you can see there's a new version of .NET out, but we are sticking with 6, and this matches our framework version. So at this point, all of that looks good. And so what you want to do is basically run a build. Okay, and then there are migrations here. So you are going to need to do an update database. Oops, got to spell it right. Long day. There we go. Okay, and then we should be able to run it. Okay, and so you can see that it does come with some data already in there, some seed data, and it is working. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now, my next step is going to be to log into my ASP.NET. And I actually created a student account. So I'm going to log into that. And actually, I have been using Firefox. We'll see. Doesn't really matter which one you use, but I actually have a real account for this too. So let's see. We'll go to my ASP.NET, log in. All right, and so this, it did keep my student account, which I call Teacher 218. So this is my student account, and I'm going to go ahead and go into the control panel. And so with a student account, you're only allowed one running app. So I'm going to delete. Let me go into MS SQL. I'm going to go ahead and delete these. And then we'll go over here. And I'm going to delete this as well. And the reason I'm showing you guys this is because that if you are going to do more than one deployment, you're going to have to delete the old one to create a new one. So unless you have multiple emails and you create multiple accounts. So now I'm starting clean here. So I'm going to do a new site. And the name I want for the site is not site 1. I think I'm going to call this, I don't care. You can call it movies or RP movies. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so what it's doing is it's now creating the site, and then I'm going to create the empty database. And those are really the two things that I have to do out here. Okay, so here's my empty site. We're going to go into database, MS SQL, and I'm going to add a database. And MS SQL 2019 is fine. And I'm going to call it RP Movies. Okay, and then I'm going to use a password. Now, it's really important that you remember this password because you're going to have to enter it into a database string in your VS app or your Visual Studio app, and that helps connect them. So I am going to use we'll submit that. All right, I'm going to maybe pause this because I'm going to check that password before I save it. All right, so now I've got my database and I've got my website. What I need to do next is go into the website and get my web deploy information. So, if you point here, you can see it's got show web deploy. I'm going to click on that. You need to know this password as well. Now, this should be the password that you use to log into your site, but you may want to double check. If when we're in Visual Studio, if it can't validate your connection, the chances are that this password does not match the password that you're keying in, okay? And they have to match. So you may want to, modify that and set that just so you know for sure what it is. But I'm going to go ahead because I jotted mine down and they should not have changed. So I'm going to go ahead and get my publish setting. This is going to download an XML file. Okay, and it's putting it in my download folder. Then, once that's downloaded, I'm going to go back over to Visual Studio. And I'm going to right click on my project and choose Publish. And for Target, and I should mention, if you don't get this, you should be able to hit New over here. But since you guys all downloaded mine, it should work the same. So for Target, you're going to import your profile. And that is what we just downloaded. Going to hit Next. And now we have to find that profile. And mine went to the download folder. Here it is. And I'm going to open it. And I'm going to click on Finish. And I'm going to close this. Now I am not done. I have to change some settings. So I can click on Show All Settings, or I can go up here and edit. It doesn't really matter which way you get in, but this is where you're going to modify your connection first. Okay? And what you have to do here is put in your password. Now, this is the password that you use for myasp.net that goes with your username. Okay, and I'm going to validate the connection. If this does not work, then I need to go back into myasp.net, bring up web deploy, and where the password shows, I need to say modify. Okay, and let me just show you again where that is. Oops. Okay, so that was right here. Okay, it's checking this password, okay, to make sure that they match. Okay, so if they do match and it can connect, then you get the green check. So the next step here is going to be to modify settings. So, I mean, we can go in here, but what we're going to need are the database settings. And so to get those, we got to go back out to myasp.net and we need to go into database. Okay, so this is where that new database is that I just created. And I need the connection string examples. So I'm going to click on that. And ASP.NET is what I want. Do not include the double quote. So you're going to drag from that point over and you're going to copy. So Control C, close that. And then I'm going to go over into my app and where it's got databases. I'm going to turn this on and I'm going to click. I'm going to paste that connection string right here. Okay, and then where I've got your DB password, I am going to put the password that I created when I created the database. All right. And I don't know why I can't save this. This is huge. Just a minute. Let me see if I can resize. It's a monster. There it is. All right. Let me save. All right. So that's one thing I need to do. Now I'm going to go back in here because the database should still be set. I also need the same settings for Entity Framework. And sometimes it just takes a minute for this to catch up, and I don't know why. Okay, so framework dependent should be set. Target runtime should be portable. That's all correct. Let me run a build here. We'll do a rebuild on the solution. Okay. And let me make sure I don't have anything running. All right, let's try going back in here again. Okay, so it is looking for that config file. Let me see. That file should be there. Here it is. Here's the JSON file. Okay. Let me see if I delete that. Let's run a build. Okay, let's see if it works now. So it should still have my database. It does look like it's going to work. Maybe not. Build started. All right, so what I did was I deleted the config file out of there. And it actually generated it again. So I deleted it, and then I did a build and I did a clean solution. And that must have generated the new one. And now when I go in there, it does what it's supposed to. So hopefully you guys aren't going to run into this, but if you do, that is how I fixed it. And putting the database into this database section is not going to be a problem, but this has to work. So it has to detect your context in order. Don't even try deploying if you can't get this to work. So again, what I did was I went out and I deleted the config folder because that was indicating that was where the error was. And then I actually went up to build and I did a clean solution. And then when I came back in here, it detected the context file. So you guys may have to do that too. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this on and I'm going to paste. And I'm going to throw in my not so secret password and save it. So again, the changes that you have to make are under connection. You have to put your password here and you have to validate. And then under settings, it should be .NET 6, framework dependent and portable. Databases, you need to paste that string, the connection string, and put in your password. And it should detect your context, and you have to put that same connection string in here with your password. And that's super important. And this second step is where I had the error. So I had to go out. I had to delete the config folder. Okay, and then I did the build clean solution that generated a new one. And then when I came back in here, it was able to discover the context. Okay, so you guys may have to do the same thing. Now that I've got all this set up, the rest is easy. All I have to do is hit publish. And then what it's doing is it's uploading the app, and it is also generating the database. And so once it's done, it should launch a web browser and we should be able to see it. And this is actually really a neat way to deploy because any change that we make to any of our files, other than the models, but any change we make, we can just come back out here, hit publish, and it'll republish. If we change the model and it's going to affect our database, we do need to do migrations. Okay, and then we can come back in here and hit publish. So let's see, hopefully there's not a whole lot to this. So hopefully it won't take too long. Okay, it looked like it succeeded. That's always a good sign. And here it's launching. And it did keep all of the seed data. Okay, and it should do that for you guys as well. Okay, and so the link that you need to turn in is right here. So you can copy and paste that. You can also get the link from mysp.net. Pull the right one up here. Go into website. Oops, it's going to make me re-log in. Oops, that's the wrong one. Whoops. Click happy here. Okay, we'll go back here. We got to get into the control panel. All right, so this is also the deployed site. Okay, so, if you close your browser, you can still get to it. You have to log into myasp.net, but that's it. Okay, and that's the link you need to turn in. So hopefully you guys won't have problems, but if you do, give a holler because I will help.